Okay, guys, we are back with the Coach Trap podcast. This week, we are grateful to be joined by the amazing Vicky O'Farrell. Vicky, tell us all about you. Tell us a little bit about your journey into working online, and then let's have a deep dive.
Okay, thank you, gents, for inviting me to come and join you on the Coach Trap. So I'm Vicky O'Farrell. I am AKA the Queen of Behaviours, and I help you to understand the ripple effects of your behaviours by, first of all, looking in the mirror and understand what it's like to be on the receiving end of you, because we don't often do that. And we don't often think about the impact that we have on other people. We spend so much time just assuming that everyone wants to interact like we do, wants to talk to everybody like we do, wants to behave like we do. And that's not the case, because nobody is like you. And we have to make allowances for them. How did I get into this? Well, I'd have to take you back to August 2013. I was invited into the boardroom of the corporate organisation I work for to be told my job was no longer tenable. And that was a big word for me back then, still is a big word for me now. But basically, it meant I was fired. And at the tender age of, what was I then, 40 something, I kind of like, oh, right, I fired. And that was it. Packed my desk up, got on the train, came home. Remember speaking to my husband, walking to the station saying, I've just been fired. And I kind of did a bit of a coaching thing on myself. I got myself 2 bits of paper and did the whole, like, what do I want to do and what I don't want to do. And I think on the top of what I don't want to do was, I don't want to commute to London anymore on the 601 out of Brighton. That's down on the south coast in the UK, if you're listening around the world. And what do I want to do? I want to be in charge of my own destiny, because I didn't see that coming, although I should have done. That's part of a keynote I give, because it all talks about the behaviours in the workplace that changed my behaviours. So I have a wonderful husband who's very supportive and actually turned around and said, right, you've got 3 months. I'll cover the bills, but there's 3 months. Work out what you want to do, because I don't want you just jumping back on the train to go and work for someone else. And within 3 months, I'd set up a business. I had 3 contracts, and I started my journey then of becoming a coach through the coaching academy here in the UK. And as part of that journey, you learn the DISC profiling tool. There's lots of psychometric testing tools out there. I don't actually like the word test, because that would suggest there's a right or wrong when it comes to personalities, and there isn't. We're just different. And it was like a light bulb moment for me then. I kind of went, I like this stuff. And I thought, I've done this stuff. I've done all this stuff in my corporate world. I've done different tools. And I thought, why am I finding it so exciting now? And I guess it's because I'd do a day working for a corporate. I'd go and we'd do this day and it would be so amazing. And I'd learn all about me, and it was all about me. And don't we just want to hear about ourselves, don't we? We can talk about ourselves forever. And I just thought, do you know what, though? I'm going to build a business around this, and I'm going to build a business bigger than just personalities. Hence the journey to becoming the Queen of Behaviours.
Wow. Absolutely love that. So powerful. And I resonate with so much of that. That transition, even as something as small as commuting, I resonate with that a lot. But look, what caught my attention was that amazing TEDx talk that you've done, about being human, about being on the receiving end of you. And I resonated with the whole thing, especially with what me and Dan are here, to talk about the coach trap. Even with that talk you've done, speaking authentically, tell us a little bit more about that. And then let's have a real deep dive into the TEDx talk. So first of all, how did you even get to do it? And then, how did you get to apply? How did you get to take that stage? And then, talk me through it.
Okay, so as part of my journey of coming to where I am now as a speaker, I joined an organisation called the Professional Speaking Association, and that helps new and emerging speakers, fellows of the speaking world, from all aspects of life. And it's helped me become the best speaker that I can be. I'm still learning stagecraft, all of that. I'm always learn, how can I do it better? How can I do it more? And as part of that journey, I thought, I'd love to do a TEDx. And I have applied for probably the last 5 years across different places. And I think the thing was, I was always applying to the really popular ones, where like 100 people apply. And then this one came up in Guildford, and I applied, and I got through. I got through to the round of interviews, which we went all to. There was, I think, a dozen of us that went through to that round. Didn't have a defined talk, but you needed to get up on stage and kind of give an idea of what you'd talk about. And I was successful enough to win a place. And I think it definitely was the opening line of my TEDx, which is, what is it like to be on the receiving end of you?
So true. And it's actually something that me and Dan talk about, especially with our DM strategy and etc. That, Dan, how many people do we every week get talking to us about AI integration, chatbots and stuff like that, I think you miss such an important part of that human interaction. Dan, I've got a question for you. Would you do a TEDx talk?
I don't think I'd be very good at it. I'd love to. I mean, everyone would love to, wouldn't they? But I don't think I'd be very good. I think I'm going to stick to the writing side of it.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I'm coming straight in there with a limiting belief. I
Yeah, that's
don't
true.
think I'd be very good.
This
You're
is
the
the coaching coming through.
exactly.
It's really interesting that you say that because, I might come across as the most confident person to lots of people, but actually, as someone's there building away in the background. But for me, actually, I'm not sure I would be confident on the stage. I would worry about me swearing, if that makes sense, or me maybe saying something's maybe questionable. I find I'm better in like smaller spaces or like a classroom, maybe not such a bigger thing. Vicky, that obviously definitely fits in, doesn't it, to limited beliefs in, psychology. Tell me a little bit more about that. Where did the confidence come from? How did you know that you were made of the right stuff to go and do it?
Well, to be fair, it is a skill. Standing up on stage and speaking confidently with the craft, there's so much that goes into it. And it's one of those things that whenever somebody says, "Oh, if I want to book you for a keynote and I give them a price and they're kind of like thinking, oh, that's a lot for 45 minutes. But you're not paying for 45 minutes of my time. You're paying for everything that I've learned over the years and my expertise and my knowledge, but the skills that I've learned. And when I first stood up, I used to work for a large corporate, and I remember having to stand in for the sales director. I was kind of like his number two. He was like, "Oh, you're going to have to present." And I was like, "Oh, okay, fine," thinking it was just to the sales team, which was like half a dozen people. Oh, no. Oh, no. I was thrown in the deep end and there was 300 people. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm gonna dry. I'm gonna mumble my words. I'm gonna that wavering voice as you start speaking. And so I wasn't you're not naturally born a professional speaker. It's something that you learn. And again, that's why I joined the Professional Speaking Association. And now I love it. I don't love it just because I love being on a big stage, but I love the message that I give, the light bulb moments that I see going off, the comments of people coming up to afterwards. I mean, you talk about that TEDx and the amount of people that have now said how more aware they are of their phone behaviour because of listening to that TEDx. Because it's not just about the words that you use, that our behaviours are about everything to do with this, our habits, our body language, the tonality, facial expressions, all of it. And so I've learned all of that to become the best speaker that I can be so that the message that I give lands with the audience that I'm talking to.
That's amazing.
Vicky,
Incredibly powerful.
I've got a question for you. So you talked before about how there's no really correct right or wrong answer with your behaviors. How do you kind of coach people to do that? So you kind of teach them the skills rather than to change their behavior.
Yeah, when I say right or wrong, so when it comes to personality profiling, which is if you think of us as behaviours, and it's like a big Spanish onion, and you've got all of those different layers of what makes us human, and the middle of it, that middle core is the personalities, and then you layer over, emotional intelligence, life's experiences, core values, all of those kind of things. So that's when I say there's no right or wrong when it comes to personalities, because some people always go, yeah, but that person over there's introverted and reserved and all task focused and so detailed. I really don't like them. And it's like, no, they have an amazing skill set that you just can't tap into because you're the polar opposite to them. But if you actually saw the value that they bring to you and your team, then that's what it is. So most of the coaching part of it when I'm doing that is getting people to just wear a different hat, wear a different cap, wear them, put their shoes on. What is it that I mean, as before we even started recording here, we said, didn't we, Daniel, that you're more reserved, whereas me and Greg are far more extroverted. That all it means is that I probably need to give you permission to speak. If I ask a question, I'll need to pause to give you time to think before you answer. And they're really, really simple things that we can do to understand actually what is the value that this person who is the polar opposite to me brings to the team. Because there's all stuff that we don't like doing. You were just saying, weren't you? A limiting belief, I believe, about you don't think you'd be good at speaking. But also you're probably thinking it's just for the extroverts. Actually, introverts make amazing speakers as well. And it's just understanding that I wouldn't say I don't like a spreadsheet because sometimes I can get a little bit like, oh, I love a spreadsheet today. But most of the time, diving into the detail of stuff, reading contracts, understanding the behind. It's like, no, I want bullet points. Give me bullet points. Give me fun. That's how I work. And some people will be like, how how have you got an understanding of what the work's got to be done? And it's like, well, that's because I've got people in my team that pick all that up for me because I don't enjoy it. So why would I do it? I've got people in my team who enjoy it. So why would they do what they don't enjoy? Do you understand what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of getting the most out of each person, isn't it, really? It's
Absolutely.
it's kind of similar to content, honestly, which is kind of coming across as the best version of yourself to other people. It's
Absolutely.
interesting.
Absolutely. It's about understanding you and what brings you joy, what gives you fulfillment in life. What are the things that bring you that joy and fulfillment in the job that you do? And what are the things that don't? And what don't is probably be part of your behaviors, part of your personality. But have you got somebody in your team that does bring them joy and fulfillment? So if you're working on a project, like, for example, if I was working on a project that needed lots of detail, don't to be rude, Greg, but I'd be choosing Dan because I'd be like, no, 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 Dan will be my man for all the detail and putting the structure together. Greg, you're going to be the one that wants to go out and talk about it and deliver it. It's just how we are. We're different. That's probably why you two make a really great partnership in this.
It's true. It's true, isn't it, Dan? And that's actually how we've worked, isn't it? I wouldn't have been able to have the success in coach I've had if it wasn't for Dan, if that makes sense. There's nothing like accountability. It's nothing like having different personalities and stuff as well. Okay, I've got a really good question for you. Me and Dan see so many coaches come and go. 86% of new coaches quit or fail every year. I think what's great about you is you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. You can't be a coach. You can't lead others down a line, a path if you haven't walked it yourself. You've definitely done that. I can see that, in the way you talk, in the way you present yourself, in your TEDx, in your LinkedIn, in everything. But are there any core themes that you stick to, in your content? Anything that you really believe in? And Dan, this is a good one for you as well to chip in on, isn't it? Me and Dan have core values that we stick to in all of our content, if that makes sense. Is there anything that you sort of stick to? Anything that is, the queen of behaviours that is Vicky O'Farrell?
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding my core values, my success values, my success markers, because core values to me is that part of snorkeling. Where you're just like, you've put your head under the water, you're snorkeling, and there's a whole world down there. You go, yeah, I'm comfortable with this. I'm comfortable. I found my values. But actually, you need to go deep. You need to get to the bottom of the ocean. And by doing that, you need to go through your success values and your success markers. And so everything that I do is about bringing me joy and bringing me life fulfillment, which will be very different to probably what brings you fulfillment. And I have them, well, I'm sitting in my office. I'm not going to show you now, but on my door, as I walk into my office, they're on there so that I see them every day as a reminder when I'm making a decision, is this aligned with living a fulfilled life? Because if it isn't, if I need to make a decision and actually and I look at it and I go, actually it's not, then it's not. It could be, say for example, I'm offered a keynote and I'm like, oh, it's maybe not quite the right price, and then negotiating on that, and I'm thinking I'm not really sure about the whole thing, and I'll look and I'll go, does it actually align with all of this? And if it doesn't, I'll say no. And that's just the way I work. That's the way Queen of Behaviours work. It might be that there's a coaching client that comes to us, and we know it's all about rapport with coaching. We all know it's about making sure that the coach and the coachee have a good rapport. I might get on a call with them. I mean, first of all, I'll get them to do a personality profile. Yeah, I'll get them to do a DISC one so that I can understand what they are. Because there's a Queen's Council that sits behind Queen of Behaviours, and there's 5 other coaches there. Because I might not be the right person. The business might be the right business, but I might not be the right coach. So therefore, I might need to get one of my other colleagues to actually be the coach, because we're all different as well. I don't have a business full of what I class in terms of DISC terms, high yellow red Vickies. If I built a business full of that, then I'm going to miss out half the audience. So I've built a business with a variety of coaches, with a variety of personalities. And you say about how coaching businesses fail. All businesses fail in the first couple of years because they don't build the right team around them. So I've survived because not only have I just built the right team around me, but I've built the right network around me. I've had lots of different networking groups, but probably found my tribe in the PSA, the Professional Speaking Association. I'm in a mastermind. I also have a business coach. Over the time of this, 2013, nearly 15 years, I'm on my 3rd coach, because you will outgrow your coach. You can only get so far with a coach, and then you get to the stage where you're like, I need to grow more. I need a new coach. I need new vision. I need someone else to push me. And so I wouldn't trust a coach if they didn't have a coach. So my coach has a coach. And I think once you get in that world of coaching and understand how powerful it is, you'll never look back.
Absolutely. Accountability. Just before I pass you on to Dan, I think one of the reasons you've done so well from what I've seen and how I've got to know you is you care. I can see that in the way you speak, the way that you come through. And that's one of mine and Dan's core values. Actually, it's not about money. I've earned my money, if that makes sense. Our core value is generally to help people. And I tell Dan openly, and any other people who come to us who maybe we turn away, I'll only work with you if I'll get a 5-star review, basically because I know I can help you, if that makes sense. If they come to us and we don't connect, or there's something different, or we don't quite click, then we won't work with them. And I think we've got that similarity there, haven't we? That there's an element of care, if that makes sense. And I think in coaching, that's why so many people get it wrong. By the way, if you look at like the likes of Andy Elliott and all these crazy other coaches out there and stuff, it's not quite right. And I feel like that's where there's so many charlatans in this business as well. So many false prophets, so many fake gurus, all that sort of stuff. So for me, it's really refreshing to see someone who cares, if that makes sense, and speaks from the heart. So that actually really wants to help people outside of earning money. Money is a byproduct of that, in my opinion, if that makes sense. And I know you're desperate to get stuck into that topic of talking authentically and having core values in your content and how you promote yourselves. Go for it.
Yeah, I completely agree with Vicky that core values are obviously really important for your business. But with your personal brand, I think it's much less about you, which is logically what you think it would be. And it's more about who you're actually targeting. So it doesn't really matter if you get on with everyone. You just need to get on with the right people who you can work with well. And that is just being authentic. And you can't really coach people to be authentic, I don't think. I think you've got to break the limiting beliefs more than anything.
Mm.
Because it's so important that you're just yourself so that you can attract people who you actually like. It will save you a lot of headaches. So yeah, I think that's the big thing for me, just being yourself.
Absolutely. All of my work comes from repeat work and recommendations, referrals from other clients, or because I've been in business now for over 10 years, I've got people who have worked in one organization and then changed jobs and moved to another organization and have pulled me in there and said, "Oh, you need to come and do some work with us in here." So it's about those relationships. I'm all about respect. That's my highest core value is respect, and it is about understanding our boundaries and being respectful to you as a human. You cut, you bleed, I cut, I bleed. Let's actually take a moment to. I've got a framework that's called pause and react, because we are so. I'm trying to think how I couldn't tell you, but we've got hundreds of biases. That's what makes us human. But what we need to know is that when we're making a decision, are we making that decision from a view of perspective, a lens of perspective, or are we making it from our own bias? Because if we're making it from our own bias, we might be making a judgment that we shouldn't be making, or we might make a misjudgment. If we can actually stop and say, where is this decision coming from? Do I need to just, like I say, pause and react?
I've got a really good question that'll link you and Vicky here. Vicky, you openly talked about being coached. So that links well into, I was thinking about that with me from my TEDx point of view. One of the reasons I'm really nervous about going on there is I'm probably worried about, being called out of being, a fake guru or prophet, all this stuff that I talk against or about, if that makes sense. But I do know that probably those limiting beliefs are stopping me and I'm going to have to go out and do it at one point. But the idea of being coached, the idea of always trying to look forward, always taking on advice, that's something that me and Dan do as well, is we'll never say we're the finished article, always trying to look to improve stuff, being on top of, the new tech that's coming out or the new philosophy or the new ideas. But obviously, you're in a room with Dan here. He knows what he's doing on X, LinkedIn, Substack, TikTok, whatever it might be, any social media platform. Do you have any questions for him or anything that maybe you might want to develop in the future or anything that you may be thinking about?
Well, I guess really is, I'm big on LinkedIn because that's kind of, I suppose, in my demographics. For those just wondering, I am in my 50s, but I'll open that TikTok app and I just go, oh, because it's just like a constant video and it's noise the minute you open it. So I am on there, but I've outsourced that to somebody that looks after it for me for my podcast. And it is that how can you encourage people like me that I'm not scared of the platform, but I just look at it and go, I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to use TikTok. Where do I start with trying to get on a platform like TikTok?
I mean, I think it's pretty similar to when you said, would you want to do a TEDx talk? And I said, I don't think I'd be very good at that. I think that's very similar to what you're suffering with the TikTok. I think you've just got to start. I think you've just got to do it. And obviously, you're not going to get loads of views instantly, but often it's not actually about the views. It's more about who you reach and who resonates with that. Because obviously, the audiences on LinkedIn and TikTok are very different.
Mm.
So you could potentially be closing yourself off to a younger audience potentially that is going to really resonate with you and could potentially feed into your business quite a lot. But what was interesting when you were talking about you get most of your clients from referrals,
Hmm.
I always think that's brilliant because that means you're really good at what you do, but potentially you're not using the marketing as effectively as possible. But the marketing is actually the easier bit. It's just being good at what you do. There's the hard bit. Usually you want about 20% or less of your leads to come through word of mouth or referrals. Most of them, 80% should be marketing. That's when you know you're doing it kind of effectively. But with your LinkedIn, I think the biggest thing that I saw that you could improve on is you talk about the Queen of Behaviours quite a lot, which is obviously a great slogan to have. What do those behaviours actually what does that change in people's lives? What is the actual benefit for them? Because I think when you're not clear on that in your content, and I mean, you were brilliant at it with the actual video itself. So potentially putting those videos on LinkedIn would be brilliant. But
Hmm.
what can they actually get out of your content and your business and your coaching? Because it's one thing saying, I'm going to change your behaviors. But if you said something like, I could destroy your limiting beliefs and make you become a much more well rounded person in business and in life and stuff like that, that would
Hmm.
definitely resonate a lot more.
Yeah, I suppose it's not so much about changing behaviours; it's about people understanding the impact of their behaviours. Because when my TEDx, the opening line is, "What's it like to be on the receiving end of you?" And that is followed up with, "And what is that costing you and your business?" Because when people suddenly go, "Oh, I don't know, what's it like to be on the receiving end of me?" You know, if you're a very, very extroverted person and you're always on the go and you're always energetic and you always want everyone to be enthusiastic, and when we've done really well, we're going to go out and we're going to celebrate with a party. Well, that's fine. But if half your team don't find that enjoyable and don't like that kind of success reward, then you're starting to alienate half your team. And they're probably the people who are polar opposite to you, who are doing all the stuff that you and the rest of the team don't enjoy. You can't have a business. Like I said, I couldn't run a business if it was just full of Vickies, because first of all, it would be exhausting. But then there's no one actually doing the detail and picking up the work. You know, so we've got to make sure that we surround ourselves with people who are different to us so that we, oh, then respect. So it's recognizing, understanding, respecting the differences. But yes, could I mean, you'd say the words, you know, if I could smash your limiting beliefs and things like that, I wouldn't, I probably, personally, I wouldn't use those words because they're not Queen of Behaviours words. But, you know, if I could erode your limiting beliefs and help you to do that first TEDx, is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, exactly. It's just about getting that benefit through. And obviously, the cost to your business thing, that's perfect. That's going to allow people to see the benefit of you really upfront. And that's pretty much what is common between every single platform. Doesn't matter whether it's LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. It's just showing what problem you solve
Yeah.
and why people should be solving that problem, basically.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Vicky, I've got another point for you, okay? For me and Dan, the whole point of this podcast is to inspire other coaches, isn't it, Dan? You know, so the amount of people that reach out to us and say, oh, you know, Greg and Dan, I loved, you know, your input on X, or I loved what you're talking about, you know, captions or scheduling or campaigns, whatever. This isn't here to make money for us. This is here to motivate other people and to enlighten them, if you like. I thought a lot about what you said with that TikTok comment because I have the same issue, okay? I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. I have that real cringeworthy factor when I have to put anything out, especially making content. I hate that. However, I love coaching, and I love coaching because I like solving problems. Okay. So when I was younger, I loved puzzles. So it fits into my sort of mindset. How I get over it is I just think about how much more the pros outweigh the cons, how much I need this to work, if that makes sense. And the biggest thing I need it for work isn't for me, it's for my wife, if that makes sense, because I have to provide for others. And that's what I say to others is that you need to be in this space to do well for a purpose which is much bigger than you, not just your bank balance. Because if you think that, it's not going to work. That's the wrong motivator. So, you know, that fits into our core values as well, doesn't it, Dan? And what you're talking about, you know, for us, we want to stop people falling into the coach trap. We want all coaches to be successful, not that 86% fail, if that makes sense. And we don't want them to be caught by dodgy marketers. Dan, we had someone on the other day who said they spent £30,000 on a marketer and got zero results. How many times do we hear that? So I think that being authentic, that speaking, trying to genuinely help people is so important. And Vicky, I see that in absolute droves of you. I see that, in every single discussion I've had with you. Dan, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, there are a lot of people that don't actually deliver on what they say, but you've got to be. I mean, that's the whole point of content, really, is because you've got to build trust with people, because people aren't these days trustworthy of anyone really, and they want to know that they actually get on with you as well, which is goes back to being authentic again. But Vicky, obviously, you've been coaching for 12 years now, which is a long time. 86% fail in the first year. So, what do you think has allowed you to actually do that? Have you got any secrets for anyone listening?
Building my network, trusting in the process of coaching as well. I mean, I don't do the whole, let's call it the grow model. I don't take you from one to one. I've been told that people love the way that I coach because I just ask questions and I challenge. When you've got a limiting belief there and you just push it. Tell me more. Why are you feeling like that? And then I just won't let it go. So what are you doing about that? I will challenge and push people, and I've had some CEOs, new leadership people where I will challenge their behaviours as well. But, they'll say, well, this on the team member, that. And I said, this is not the first time we've had this conversation about a team member and a different team member. So there could be a common denominator here. Have you started looking at your own behaviours? Or, and you've got to time it right. You've got to have a good enough relationship with them. So you've got to build the rapport. Just picking up on what you said there about how much some people spend on marketing. And I've had people approach me, do this LinkedIn thing and it will get you, I'm going to take it over for you. And I did some research and, I go and ask and I think, oh, they're connected with other people I know. And I'm going to go and ask them. And I'm like, yeah, what are they like? And they went, it's all bots. They sell it like they're people on their team, but it's just basically bots in the background. And I'm like, yeah, it's not for me. It's a bit like I could suddenly go and get 50,000 views of my YouTube video if I wanted, but they'll all be bot views. And TEDx it'll know that bots speak to bots, and suddenly my video won't be worth anything because it's all bot views and they're just not worth it. So it's about being human, not just about being authentic. Don't get me wrong, AI is, I'm a massive fan of it and I do use it in my business, but nothing replaces human contact.
I think that's another limiting belief that a lot of people have is, I don't think people are going to see this very much. I don't think I'm going to get many likes. But that actually doesn't matter whatsoever. I think with the coach chat, we talk a lot about why likes don't matter. You only need a couple of people, 10 people to see what you're actually putting out there and resonate with it and become clients to make, a really good income, which is obviously what we're here to do. We're not here to get more views or more ego. But yeah, that's interesting. Another limiting belief there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Vicky, you perfectly described the coach trap. And that's why we're here. We're here to inspire other people, to make sure that they don't fall into it. Vicky, thank you so much for joining us today. Where's the best place to find you? And then, tell us a little bit more about that.
So the website, Queen of Behaviours, and that you can contact me through there. And I am on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm not on X. I find that platform toxic. But most platforms I'm on. And you can either follow the Queen of Behaviours or follow me personally as Vicky O'Farrell, and then you get to see the me behind the brand.
Vicky, thank you so much for your time. Maybe we can talk about the power of X off air if you like. But guys, for everyone who's watching, remember, whatever you do, don't fall into the coach trap.